In this lesson, let's take a look at the Maya interface. So in the center here, we have what's called the viewport. And the viewport is where all of the action is going to take place. All of your objects, all of your animation, all of your modeling, pretty much everything that you are creating is going to show up here, and this will be your representation of the scene. You'll see that you have this little grid here, and that's to kind of just give you a ground plane and let you know a little bit where you are and show you the scale of your objects. And we'll talk a bit more about the grid in a bit. To the left is what's called the outliner. The outliner is a list view of your scene. So this is really helpful when you have more complicated scenes and you'll have a lot of objects and you will want to organize your scene in the list view so that you can easily select and name things and you can find all of your objects. You can see, you can search. We'll do a separate video kind of showing exactly what all you can do here. To the left is the tool palette where I could select objects. There's a lasso selection. There's a paint selection. So the lasso selection is just like in Photoshop or anything. The brush selection, if I had faces, I could paint and select by the faces. I can just create an object real quick here. And you can see I can paint using that. Don't worry about what I just did. We'll talk about that more in a separate video. So let's go back to, don't worry about that. We can scale objects, or I'm sorry, we can move objects. And Control Z to undo, or Command Z on the Mac. And rotate objects. And we can scale objects. Sorry, my mouse is a little buggy. All right, and then this guy we'll talk about in another video. And down here we have these 4 buttons right here, which will change your layout. So I guess, yeah. So this first button is the default layout. The second button will give you 4 view, which is really useful for modeling. There's a 2 view, so you can have, a perspective over here and a whatever, a view of your choice over here. And you can change all of these, and we'll do that in a separate video. And then you have the button to make your outliner show up and disappear. So let's go back to this first one. Down here is our timeline. You can see all these numbers. These numbers are your frames. So you can scrub through the timeline. You can also go through your timeline by clicking on this guy, this little bar right here. If you click the ends, you can change the length of your timeline. And then these 2 numbers right here, this one is like your preview. So I can type in 40, and my sequence is actually 200 frames long. So I can drag it all the way up to 200 frames, but my preview is 40, so if you're animating a short section of a larger animation, you could use that to preview, and then I can make my total animation. And you can see I can, the second number is your total length here, and this first number is your preview length. So as I shorten this, notice that number is changing. And the same thing over here, where we're starting at frame 1, and my preview is following this little region of the timeline. You have some play controls over here. You play forward, backwards, and jump around. You can jump to the step back a whole key, step back 1 frame, go to the beginning, same stuff over here. And these things we'll talk about in a little bit. Notice that down here, little tooltips are showing up. And actually a tooltip shows up for the tooltip, which is kind of neat. So it says displays short help tips for tools and selections. So I want you to look down here, and as I mouse over some things, just watch what they say. So we have rotate tool, move tool, paint selection tool, lasso tool. Pretty much everything that I hover over, if I can interact with it, a little tooltip shows up down here. Don't worry about this line right here. Over here we have a this is where our settings of things are going to be. So by default you should probably see the channel box. The channel box is where attributes of objects show up. So if I select this sphere right here, notice that previously it was blank and now I've got all these options. We'll talk about the channel box more in depth in another video. You also have the modeling toolkit. This is where we're going to spend most of our time in this class. You'll have all of the tools that you need to effectively model objects, all in this nice convenient menu. And we'll talk about this in a separate video. You have the attribute editor. This is kind of a expanded channel box where you have really in-depth settings for everything, and we'll talk about that in another video. As we go up here, we have, this is called the shelf. This whole big thing right here is called the shelf. Notice that there are several little tabs that we can click on. By default, you should probably have polygons selected, so we can see curves and surfaces, polygons, sculpting, rigging, animation, rendering, etc. Don't worry too much about the shelf right now. We are mainly going to be working in the polygons and the curves sections for this class. Up here you have your general menus for the entire application, and we have some snapping, which we'll talk about later. And yeah, so that should give you a quick overview of what the Maya interface is. In the next couple of set of videos, I'm going to go more in depth on each section and show you how everything works and how to actually start manipulating things. See you then.